All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful day. We're going to be talking about what I think will be a historic gathering right here today in terms of this announcement, but also what's going to be taking place over the next year with this synergy group here in our city and how it will lead us to an even better city, a city of increased trust as it relates to police-community relations, a more peaceful city, and the work of these fabulous citizens behind me are going to be a huge, huge part of that. Before I talk about that further, I want to thank the sponsors that have made this work possible. This is not a small endeavor. As I mentioned, it's going to be taking a year for this work and then the action report that will come out of that. So I would like to thank Papa John's for their leadership in helping fund this work, along with Humana, the Geens Foundation, and Spalding University as our thought partner and major in-kind donor to this as well. So let's give a big hand of applause to our sponsors if we could. Thanks, everybody. So think about the job that Louisville Metro police officers have. It's an incredibly challenging job. It's an important job. Every single day they have to make critical and sometimes life or death decisions, often in ambiguous circumstances and often in the snap of a finger. So as a city government, it's our responsibility to provide our police officers with the support that they need to do this job, because obviously public safety is essential to everything that we do in our city. And so that support comes in many forms. You can think about it in terms of equipment, tools, training, and we have to recognize that one of the most important and fundamental keys to establishing and maintaining public safety is maintaining and strengthening the relationship and level of trust between police and the public they serve. And I would argue that's more important than any of the tools we're talking about. I do want to comment that in my position, I'm very fortunate. I get to see wonderful interactions between our police officers and members of the public throughout our city, usually on a daily basis. Unfortunately, it's not headline news when a police officer puts her arm around a crime victim and gives them comfort and compassion at what may be the worst moment of their life. It doesn't make headlines when somebody brings a cake to division headquarters or buys an officer a cup of coffee just to show appreciation, but these type of actions are happening each and every day in our community. So throughout our city, there is a lot of goodwill and many positive connections, as well as a broad understanding that we're interconnected, that we're all in this together. Now, at the same time, it's obvious that police-community relations in our country and in our city are not always ideal and oftentimes are challenged. To give you some idea of how hard it is to always, get it right at the local level, keep in mind that LMPD has approximately 500,000 interactions with our citizens every year. 500,000 interactions that you have to get right each and every time. Additional perspective. There is much discussion around racial disproportionality with policing and the criminal justice system. And LMPD and my office are obviously aware that our residents must have confidence in the legitimacy of our city's policing. And too often, as I said, nationally and locally, there can be questions about this. So it's our responsibility as one community with one shared future and one shared goal for a city of peace and safety to change that when we can. Safety in a city is a co-production. All of us are involved in doing it. Policing is just one aspect of it. So to do that, we have to recognize and deal head-on with the tensions that exist and have existed for generations. I would say for hundreds of years, 400 years in our country between law enforcement and communities of color. This tension has its roots in the historical racism that has impacted every aspect of our society. The data bears that out, whether it's government, business, schools, the courts, law enforcement. It is a part of who we are as America. It is a part of who we are as Louisville. We didn't create it, but we can certainly act on it today to create a more equitable and more peaceful society. One way to do this is obviously to focus on increasing the consciousness and enlightenment of people through training. So we conduct lots of training. For example, we've conducted implicit bias training with our police officers and all of our Metro employees. And training is not something you do one time and say, okay, check that box, now everybody's enlightened. You know, I wish it would be that easy, but it's constant reinforcement, constant exposure. It's why we've adopted community policing strategies to better connect our officers with the citizens that they serve in every neighborhood. And why we've expanded the traditional scope of public safety beyond just policing to open up partnerships that incorporate the Department of Public Health and Wellness, our Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, and our reentry work. This approach, combined with other strategies and Chief Conrad's leadership and the dedication of our police officers and community partners, has produced results. Homicides declined by more than 30% between 2016, which was our peak year, unfortunately, and 2018. And while we unfortunately have seen several homicides in the past few weeks, our shootings remain down more than 20% compared to this time last year. Overdoses, violence against oneself, are down 28%. Still, as I said earlier, we know one key to making our city even safer is to strengthen the connection, strengthen the trust between law enforcement and the people they serve in every community and on every street in our city. That's why we're announcing today that Louisville is launching the Synergy Project. This is a community engagement initiative, an action initiative. It's not just a plan, it's action. Its goal is to further strengthen police and community relationships, building a stronger sense of trust and legitimacy in all neighborhoods of our city. The Synergy Project is part of our Lean Into Louisville initiative. Its roots were planted 3 years ago when Chandra Irvin and I were discussing her work in Charleston, South Carolina. This Synergy Project is modeled after the Illumination Project that Charleston, South Carolina created in the wake of the hate crime massacre of 9 innocents by white supremacists at the Mother Emanuel AME Church in 2015. We're adapting the Illumination Project for Louisville with the help of great partners. We'll hear in a moment from Chandra Irvin, Director of the Center for Peace and Spiritual Renewal at Spalding University. Our Chief Equity Officer, Kelly Watson, worked with Chandra and Chief Conrad and LMPD to develop the Synergy Project, which will bring together people from all parts of the community: residents, academia, business, youth, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, and political leaders, many of whom are behind me. This project creates an opportunity for police and community to work together and communicate in a safe, open, and respectful environment, being able to have the difficult decisions, to talk, to listen, and to identify root causes of distrust and find actionable solutions to move Louisville forward. Let's be clear. What we're facing isn't just a Louisville challenge, this is an America challenge. And our country is looking to cities like Louisville to come up with advances and solutions and ongoing ability to deal with challenges. The Synergy Project Steering Committee just held its second meeting, concluded moments ago, and as I said, many of the committee meetings are standing with us now. I salute them for their citizenship, to take part in this year-long initiative, and just giving of their time to make our community a better place. That, to me, is the definition of citizenship. So thank you all very much. There you go. For perspective, I'm not aware of any effort in our city's history that is undertaking the magnitude of this project we're taking on now. This is an important step in the process of creating a city of peace and safety that all of us want and deserve, a safe city where everybody has the opportunity to realize their full human potential. So thanks to our volunteers, thank you to the police department, thanks to all public safety officials to coming together around this common goal. Now I'll turn things over to Chief Conrad, who will give us more details on the Synergy Project. Chief?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. We are truly very excited about the Synergy Project. It's something we've been talking about for some time, and it's wonderful to have it underway. You know, I want to echo my thanks to the officers and citizens who are involved in this process as part of the steering group. They are going to help us by volunteering their time to really shape what this effort's going to look like. You know, what we saw in Charleston was a coming together of a community around a shared purpose, and that purpose in Charleston was building relationships. You know, here at LMPD, we've been working for years to build relationships, hosting citizens police academies, working with youth programs around the city, hosting events so our officers and residents can get together and talk in good times as opposed to just coming together during a time of a crisis. However, from my perspective, we have a great deal of work to do, and there is a great deal of opportunity for improvement. Without strong relationships with all parts of our community, we, and I'm talking about the police, can't do what we are tasked to do, and that is keeping our neighborhoods safe. For these relationships to thrive, we need the community's trust. And we know that for some, that trust just isn't there. As a department, we're willing to take criticism, to listen to what the public has to say, and then incorporate that into what we're doing. And an example of that is the recent traffic stop policy changes, which our officers are training on right now, that will go into effect on August 1st. But we must go further if we want to really understand what's going on. And that starts with understanding the origins of mistrust that people feel, and that we need to be willing as a community and as a police department to engage people in this community in those difficult conversations. But this can't stop with just conversations. We need a joint strategy for making public safety in this community look like what the community wants it to be. Over the next few weeks, the steering group, which is here with us today, will be working to put together what those conversations will look like, and more importantly, how we translate those conversations into action and change. This group will customize the Charleston's Illumination Project to make it work here in Louisville. As this project develops, we're going to be engaging more residents in the process. And as we get to the fall, we're going to be reaching out and hosting facilitated action sessions to give everyone in this community and every neighborhood an opportunity to have input on how things are going to look and feel. I truly believe that by working together, that is the only way we can make things happen, and that is going to require us trusting one another. Building police and community, or building community and police relationships grounded in trust and legitimacy is a goal that I think we can all share. I want to thank the many sponsors that came together to make this happen. In particular, the Papa John's Foundation. We have some representatives of the foundation here with us today. Thank you so much for their generous support. And I want to especially thank our partners at Spalding University for working with us to craft this idea and to make it a reality. And now I'd like to turn things over to one of our Spalding partners, Chandra Irvin, for some remarks. Chandra?
On behalf of Spalding University, I want to say that we are delighted to be a part of this change process, and we're delighted to be a part of this great community of Louisville. When we think about projects such as this one, the Synergy Project, often we focus on what we're going to do and what we're going to achieve. That's really important. And we have to do it in order to make some difference. But at the same time, we also need to consider something a little deeper, and that is, who are we and what are we becoming? Not only as a community, but as individuals, because in reality, when we get to the process of developing trust, that's an individual thing. And when it comes to making a difference within our own lives, that's individual. And so as we go forward with this particular project, we're going to be asking ourselves questions like, who am I really? And to what am I ultimately committed? Not just personally and immediately committed, but ultimately committed as persons and as a community. How are our behaviors undermining or helping us to advance that commitment? We're committed here in Louisville to compassion. We have a number of positive commitments that we have made. And this project, which will be a project but ongoing process as well. So beyond the time period in which we'll be looking at this as a project, we expect that this will be going on and on and on for as long as we want to reach our greater purpose, which is to further strengthen relations between police and citizens so that we might have a trusting environment and a safe environment. I believe that we have all that we need in order to do it. Based on my experience with Charleston, and based on my knowledge and experience of the people here in Louisville over the years that we have lived here, my husband and I say we have all that we really need. We just have to make the commitment, and we need the commitment of everyone in our community. Thank you, and I'd like to now turn this over to Lieutenant Volt.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. When they originally asked me to do this, I was a little confused, uncertain, and it was when they explained it, it was a very daunting task. And as you look at the people behind me here, they probably have a lot of the same sentiments, because this is a problem that is it covers so many facets, and it's multifaceted. That how do you solve it? And there's no clear answer, but the only way I can explain it is that projects like this is how you can work to solve it. I can't make any guarantees, I can't make any promises, other than the fact that I'm going to do my best, and I'm sure the people behind me here are going to do their best to have conversations, real conversations we probably don't want to have with people that we don't really know. So that's what we have to do, is we have to come together to have these conversations in order to find that trust. And I don't even want to say law enforcement in the community, but just as people. What Chandra brought up a good point. What do we want to be, and where do we want to go as a city? And we can talk, and we can have a project like this for the next year or so, but unless people buy into it in the community and the city, we won't get anywhere with it, and we'll have the same problems. And so that's what I'm encouraging everybody that has a chance to. You have those conversations with each other. And in one of our first meetings, they asked us, how did we end up here? And that's one of those things that every individual in this community probably needs to ask themselves, is how did we end up here? But then further that by saying, what can we do? Because what can you do as an individual to make your city better? I love this city. I really do. I love being a police officer here. And I will pour my heart and soul into anything I do for this city. So that's what every individual, how much do you love your city, and what are you willing to do? And the people here, I mean, they're ready to do it. But once we go past this, who else can we get to? Because we're probably gonna have a lot of good work done, but how much work is there when we get to people that are resistant to change, that have very closed minds on, and I would say both sides, but it's many sides here, because just in these couple meetings that we've had, I've opened my own eyes up to different experiences that I have to see the other side of or understand before I can really make a difference or talk to certain people or understand certain people. And so that's I'm grateful for the opportunity, and that's my challenge to everybody is, what can you do for your city?
In closing our remarks is Mr. Dominique Pendergrass. He's one of our city's Thrive Fellows. Dominique?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. I want to start off by first and foremost thanking Chief Conrad and Jesse Halliday, as well as the Keenan Charitable Trust and Cities United. by way of the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods for giving me the platform and the opportunity. I was immediately drawn to the Synergy Project when Jesse first told me about it. I feel like this particular group that's been assembled to help improve police relations in our community is both well equipped to do the work that we're setting out to accomplish and intentional about improving the lives of those in said communities in a compassionate and equitable way. I hope to, with the help of this cohort, explore solutions to the problems that plague the place I've called home for 25 years so that my 4-year-old son Cam, you wanna wave, say hi, can grow up in a healthy and safer community than I did as a child. It means a lot to see all of these esteemed leaders behind me in one space, brainstorming and really delving into the root causes of these issues. I'm excited about what the prospect of the future holds and ready to get started. I'm the final presenter, so I'm going to open it up for questions.